What's up, Warriors fans, and welcome back to Warriors Latest. As always, I am your host, Max Arizin. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you enjoy the show today, as I do post new Warriors videos daily, and it does help the channel continue to grow as the season moves along. Now, Friday night's game was easily one of the ages. The Warriors were fighting back the entire time, and I'm watching this and thinking, I think we're going to see something amazing happen that night, and we did. Steph helps with lead the comeback over the Spurs, and even though the Spurs had that huge size advantage thanks to Wemby, they were able to get the job done, and they constantly forced it back, like pushing. But the Warriors were able to go punch for punch for them, and I think that shows like how much this Warriors team is together and how much they are after the same goal. I feel like that talk that Jimmy and Draymond gave the entire team this past week about hidden agendas, about playing together, really resonated with the rest of the team, and they were able to go 2 for 2 against one of the best teams in the league in the Spurs. On top of that, there were several things that were highlighted in that Spurs victory that weren't wins, but you understand what the holes were. Now, I'm sure you saw it, because I know I did, that lob alley-oop foul that Wemby got on Draymond Green. Now, we saw the original one, and Wemby just grabs the ball, throws it in, gets the foul over Draymond. But we see that side angle that's going around on Instagram Reels, and that size advantage is just too much. There is nothing Draymond can do with a guy that size. I don't care how tough he is. I don't care how physical he can be. This is an issue that has to be dealt with eventually. I don't know if it's going to be dealt with now, but it has to be dealt with. The Warriors need to find somebody that it can at least put up, let's say, some kind of a fight that doesn't result in an easy foul that Draymond's obviously going to give, that Al Horford's obviously going to give, that Kuminga, Jimmy Butler, anybody who guards Wemby is going to get. Because the truth of the matter is, as good as the Thunder are, this Spurs team is going to run through them in 7 games. I have no doubt in my mind, as good as the Thunder are, they may be champs, this Spurs team is better than them. And I have no doubt that if push comes to shove, they play each other second round, 7-game series, the Spurs will pull it out in those 7 games because of how good Wemby is. Yes, they do have Chet. Yes, they do have Isaiah Hartenstein. They got the MVP and SGA along with Luke Dortz and Jalen Williams. But it's just you know it when you see it. And what I saw is this Spurs team, even when things aren't exactly going their way, they are going to fight till the very end. And even though it was a last-second shot that was missed by De'Aaron Fox, they're a force to be reckoned with. Like, I'm looking at these numbers, and this is just amazing. Now, going back to Friday night's game, let me get that up real quick, because watching it alone, this was an NBA Cup game too. Granted, I don't think that matters too much because who really cares about the NBA Cup? They're meaningless games that are trying to be promoted into something. Now, but looking at these stats for the Spurs, look, Wemby had 26, 12 rebounds, not as many assists as he had on Wednesday, but he got the job done. And he was playing 38 minutes. Who's playing 38 minutes that young? He's getting the job. Now, next closest was Steph Castle with 36. Now, Steph, I've been very high on him since he won his title with UConn after he was drafted. I knew he was that guy. He's a great off-the-ball scorer and defender. A very good two-way player. And you have him on SGA for, let's say, 30 to 35 minutes a game, he's going to be a problem. And on top of that, they have a very strong bench. So the Warriors, look, it's either going to go through the Spurs or Oklahoma City to get to the title, but they're going to be a very tough team to beat in a 7-game series. And yes, the Warriors have beaten the Spurs in back-to-back games, but they need to do something about Wemby because in a 7-game series, they're just going to dish it over and over and over to Wemby, and there's nothing the Warriors can do. So the Warriors have to trade for a center in order to really shore up the middle, because you can't have, looking at this game, I remember it was Quentin Post, he played 7 minutes off the bench. As the only 7-footer for the entire team, You just cannot have that. And yeah, maybe they're just sort of bringing him along. They want Al Horford to play more. And I get that because Horford, you want him in a rhythm. He is that guy who is going to stretch the floor. But Horford isn't going to give you more than 25 minutes a game. So you got to give Quentin Post more minutes. And you can't rely on the likes of Draymond or Trace Jackson Davis. They aren't true centers. They are power forwards that are put into the middle. That's that. I don't care what anybody says, they're power forwards. The Warriors need to bring in another big, so just embarrassing moments like what happened to Draymond on Friday night don't happen again. So it was a good win on Friday, but we know the holes. They need to be addressed. Now, for New Orleans, that was a more interesting game because the Warriors controlled the tempo from start to finish. I believe, what was it? It was, at first quarter, they scored 44 points and led by, I want to say, let me look this up real quick. It was first quarter box score. I want to say it was like 14 to 15 points. But they literally they had total control over this game. It wasn't really a question if the Warriors were going to win. It was how much they were going to win by. Now, full box score, team stats. Yeah. Oh, anyway. They had full control of the game. And what's surprising for the game was the fact, all right, there we go. End of the first. Yeah, they led by 16 at the end of the first. So they had full control coming out of the gate. And what was interesting looking at this full box score is it wasn't the main guys. It wasn't the big three that the Warriors had that did the scoring. It was mostly Moses Moody that really took over and proved that he's a valuable part of this starting lineup. Now, looking at these starters, it was Steph Curry, Moses Moody, Will Richard, Draymond, and Jimmy Butler. Now, I'm not a fan of that small ball lineup because it's not going to last. And yes, the Pelicans are one of the worst teams in the league. And yes, that is a bummer that another one of Steve Kerr's disciples in Willie Green lost his job. And that does stink. But Green will land on his feet somewhere, and that's not a big deal. But it's just sort of a testament against Steve Kerr for all the Steve Kerr haters out there because he doesn't create a good coaching tree. I mean, you could say Mike Brown is part of his coaching tree, but Mike Brown was a coach of the year before. Mike Brown was coach of the year before Steve Kerr even started coaching. He was a coach of the year. He helped the Cavs get to the finals along with a young LeBron James, and he's been that guy with a number of teams. So he's been around the block. So I wouldn't really consider him a disciple of Steve Kerr. But we look at like Alvin Gentry. That didn't go out too well. And it's just he hasn't really made great coaches out of his assistants. And it's a bit of a bummer, but we'll wait and see what happens. We look at Pop's coaches. Pop's coaches can be hit or misses, but the good portion of them have been hits so far. And like other coaches, Phil Jackson's disciples, none there yet. I think all we have is Brian Shaw. So I feel like the coaching tree isn't as crazy in the NBA as it is, say, in the NFL, where all your information can be drawn from one single coach. But this game against Nola, it was a give-me game, and the Warriors took full advantage. Yes, Steph didn't have a great game. He only, looking at it, he only had 9 points after tying Jordan on Friday for the most 40-point games after the age of 30. Now, Steph is going to surpass that number sometime this season, and it's going to be a crazy game. But to see other guys pick up the slack, like Buddy Hield with 11, Pods with 19, Moses Moody with 32, and then Jimmy with 18, and then Draymond and Steph and Will Richard in single digits with 8, 9, and 9. Okay, they could pick up the slack, and that's good, but where do you have to keep this momentum going from here? All right, you have a good game against New Orleans. Let's see if we could keep that going against the likes of Orlando tomorrow night. So if they keep it going versus Orlando tomorrow night, all right, I got a little more faith, and I am happy about that. But end of the day, it's good that they controlled the tempo. It's good that the other guys stepped up when Steph or Jimmy or Draymond couldn't get it done. And it's good that the Warriors can really spread out the scoring. They don't always have to rely on Steph to get you 40 a night in order to win. But again, biggest issue the Warriors are facing, and it's especially going to be an issue when they face the likes of Miami, when they face the likes of Orlando tomorrow night, is the bigs issue. Like I said, Quentin Post only played 7 minutes on Friday against Wemby. That's an issue because, look, you have a 7-footer going up against a 7'6" guy. You can't have Draymond, who's 6'6", go up against a guy who's a foot bigger than him. That's like a guy who's 5'4" guarding me. It just does not work. I don't care how fast and how quick he may be. You can't teach height. So the Warriors need to get somebody who has that just size advantage or can match up with those bigger guys and can play more than 7 minutes a game that they give Quentin Post. Looking at the numbers from the Pelicans game, how much, where was it? Hold on, let me get the full stats. Let's see. Al Horford played 20 minutes. Quentin Post played 10 minutes. And most of the minutes for center went to Draymond. And Draymond having those minutes in the middle just isn't going to work out as this season goes along. Because, yes, they may be playing certain guys right now, but guys like Draymond who are in their mid to late 30s are going to get worn down faster. And come February, March, April, they're not going to have that same energy that they have right now at the beginning of the season when, at the end of the season, things have a little more meat to them and the games mean a whole lot more, especially if they're playoff games. Like you put Draymond out for 35 minutes in a playoff game, I don't know if he's going to live or die out there, but he's not going to be as effective as, say, a 7-foot big man rather than putting him maybe at the 3 or the 4 where he can be a more effective presence. So the Warriors do have to do something about this bigs issue, and I believe that this game against Orlando may expose them a little bit in this bigs issue, but I'm going to look forward to seeing them win because I think they can overcome it, especially against teams like Orlando, but other teams are going to have a problem with. Now, Orlando does have a good depth of bigs in their rotation, so they're going to be able to wear down Al Horford and Draymond Green without much issue. Looking at it, they have Wendell Carter Jr., they have, what's his name? Goga, I believe his name is. If you remember Goga, he was the guy that was sitting next to Zion in the rookie press conferences where everybody was next to Zion and no one was there with him. I think his last name's Bisdain. Let me look. Hold on. And let's see. Preview, tickets, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, I believe it's Goga Bisdain. You can correct me on that if you want down in the comments because I'm probably wrong. But they have a good rotation. Franz Wagner is a big man. I believe his brother Mo isn't playing, but there's another big man. So they're going to have a lot of physicality down in the post. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how the Warriors respond because, they don't have these kinds of bigs that can match up with consistent rotation bigs where you have 3, 4, 5, 6 guys who are 6'10" and above and just constantly wearing you down. And I hope to see Quentin Post at least get some more minutes because averaging single-digit minutes for a 7-footer who can actually shoot the 3 pretty well, that's an issue. So we need to see him get on the floor a little more and get the experience that will pay dividends down the road at the end of the season when they need him in crunch spots against these bigs that Draymond, Jimmy, Kuminga, Trace Jackson-Davis, Al Horford can't really match up with well because of how tall they are. But the bottom line is, as I said, these Warriors wins may not last. And now, what do I mean like that? Yes, they are getting these grinded out wins, but the problem is with these grinded out wins, or even these wins where you're in control from start to finish, is they wear you down. And when they wear you down, it isn't going to show right now. It's not going to show until maybe February, and you don't want the Warriors to constantly play from behind the 8 ball. Now, we saw what Draymond talked about beginning of the season with the introductory press conferences during media day. He's like, yeah, we were playing from behind, like every game was a playoff game from January all the way into May. And he's right. Like, you don't want that to be the system or the situation that the Warriors run, which is why I say, yes, these games are nice. It's nice to get these wins and these big morale wins, these controlling wins, but you got to address the holes sooner rather than later. Yes, you may get the win against Orlando. Yes, you may get the win against Miami, and then you have that huge homestand. But you have to address the issues before it's too late. Now, looking at it, Moses Moody and Will Richard are going to be a part of this team for the foreseeable future. They aren't getting traded. Even though I thought Moody was going to get traded, he is a prolific part of this lineup and is proving that, you know what? It doesn't matter. As long as the team keeps winning, as long as the team keeps doing well, that's all that's he needs. And that's the kind of player with that Warriors mentality that you want to see. Now, looking at that, there are other guys that probably will see themselves show themselves the door eventually this season. Most likely it's going to be Kuminga and Pods because Kuminga has already gotten removed from the starting lineup in favor of Will Richard and in favor of Moses Moody. So it's going to be tough to see, but January 15th is going to come pretty quickly, and I do see them doing something about that. But until then, they got to find other ways to keep these wins going. And while they may not last, let's see how long they can make it last before they can make a serious move and improve the roster to fill those holes that they significantly have after watching them just get demolished in the paint by the Spurs back to back, even though they did get those wins. Now, that's all we have today for Warriors Latest. As always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you enjoyed the show today. And if you have any potential Kuminga/Pods trades you'd like the Warriors to at least look into, feel free to comment below, as I love hearing your ideas. And as always, go Dubs.